Bringing people and communities together on seclosounds.org.
Your listening station.
Hi, I'm Terry Sullivan and welcome to this, the first Sticks Radio Show 2014. My guest today is none other than Alan Clark, keyboard player with Dire Straits. We're going to be talking to him about Dire Straits and his time with Tina Turner, but let's start the show off with one of their tracks. This is from the 1985 album Brother in Arms. This is The Walk of Life. On today's radio show we have with us Alan Clark. He's a member of, former member of Dire Straits and now with a band called The Straits. Good morning, Alan. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very, very good. Absolute pleasure to have you on the show. I saw Dire Straits both when they were first started. I believe you weren't with them then, and I saw them again later on a couple of times, once at Woburn, which we will talk about perhaps later. Can we talk about sort of how you got into music.
How I got into music? Well, I guess I was always into music, really. I was caught plunking on my grandmother's piano at a very early age, when I could barely reach the keys. And so I was sent off to piano lessons, and we had a piano in the house, and then I just taught myself after that, really. And then what really did it was a Hammond organ shop opened up in my local town where I went to school, and I sort of went in there and taught myself how to play Hammond organ, and that's kind of like really. And then I started playing in working man's clubs. I played the Hammond organ in working man's clubs, and one thing led to another, and here I am.
Okay. Was that when you were playing the Hammond organ? Were you sort of accompanying other people, or were you sort of singing and playing yourself together, or?
No, I was kind of like the resident organist in a club or various clubs, and so I'd be back in also like the acts, and playing a few tunes myself
in between
with the drummer, yeah, and then back in the acts, and even strippers actually, there was
really
all sorts of things.
Yeah, perhaps we won't discuss that too much. That'll be fun. I don't mind. I mean, I guess that's when the sort of, should we say, the working men's clubs were sort of at their height, weren't they? I mean, there was so much talent around sort of that sort of era.
Well, yeah. I mean, there was a big live scene happening in the working men's clubs when I was fortunate enough to just arrive. When the working men's clubs were starting to take off and they were opening up all over the place, and they all wanted Hammond organs, and the Hammond organ shop. I happened to live in the perfect strategic place for Hammond to sell their organs from, which was Chesterley Street, and they distributed to the northeast from there. So
really,
it was very lucky that the shop happened to open up in the town that I went to school with.
I mean, sometimes fate, it sort of shines on people. It's unbelievable how sort of almost like things fall in place for some people. It seems to be. I mean, I talk to a lot of sort of showbiz people, and so many things. It's sort of like an off chance, or a sort of a lucky, geographically, or just a throwaway comment. Sometimes that it's really done well for them. So
yeah,
how did you?
When just before I was offered the post with Dire Straits, I had a very strong feeling that there was going to be something coming along that was going to take me off and into that world. Yeah.
I mean, before Dire Straits, who was the sort of? Do you remember playing with anybody sort of who's now famous, or?
Well, yeah, at the time, Dire Straits heard of me.
Yeah.
I was kind of headhunted by them because I'd been playing with Gallagher and Lyle.
Oh, you played with Gallagher? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was brilliant.
And when Dire Straits needed a keyboard player, they asked around. One of the people they asked was Gallagher and Lyle's manager, who recommended me.
Really?
Before that, I'd also been playing with a duo called Splinter, who had a hit record with they had a hit record called Costa Finetown, a single called Costa Finetown, but they were signed up with George Harrison's Dark Horse label.
Really?
They made a few albums with them, so I met George Harrison way before Dire Straits, and then of course I would meet him again when I was with Eric Clapton's band in the late '80s. George used to come in and hang around and play with us and things. So.
Yeah, because I say what? So what was it? Was it a quick telephone call? Oh, it's Dire Straits on the phone. Would you like to come and join us?
Well, actually, I was in bed one morning. It was about 10 o'clock, I think, and I heard the phone rang, so I nipped downstairs. We didn't have mobiles in those days, of course, and this was in 1980, and it was Dire Straits' second in command manager sort of inquiring about my availability for a major band, and I said, well, tell me who it is, and he said, well, I can't. I said, oh, well, I'm not interested then. So he did tell me, and I said, right, Dire Straits, I know all about them, because a friend of mine was a huge fan of them, and they used to play their records all the time, so I was well familiar with Dire Straits.
Because it must have been, I suppose it must have been a very strange sort of joining a band where the core of the band was already founded, because I mean they'd had quite a few hits already, hadn't they? They'd had Sultans of Swing. But you joined when it was later on. It was going to be the golden era, what I call the golden era of Dire Straits. But was it very strange, sort of joining up with them? And
no, because they'd never had a keyboards player, so it wasn't like I was replicating.
No.
Anything. I was just inventing all the keyboard parts thereafter. So it was a perfect scenario for me, really.
I must have been. I mean, yeah, it was great. So, obviously, you joined, and I think were you on? Was the Brothers in Arms the first album you were on?
No, the first album was Love Over Gold.
Love Over Gold.
Yeah.
So you joined when it really was the sort of like the golden era, wasn't it?
Well, it became the golden era, and of course, I always put it down to the fact that I joined.
Yeah, it was because you joined. I think that's probably right, actually. I'd go with that one. I mean, you were on "Twisting by the Pool," which was the big hit single from the album, wasn't it? From Love Over Gold.
"Twisting by the Pool" was actually on an EP,
was it?
which was just after "Love Over Gold."
Okay.
There was an EP in between Brothers in Arms and in between Love Over Gold and Brothers in Arms.
Brothers in Arms. Okay.
Yeah.
And then okay. Well, did you? I know. We laugh when you saying you just said about you being the keyboard player. You brought them success. Did you really, when you joined up with them, or even before you signed the contract, did you think they were going to be that successful?
Nobody knows they're going to be.
No, well,
that successful.
No, I mean,
anybody who says they do are disillusioned, really.
Yeah. Because
No, I mean, I hoped. And we all hope, we obviously that's what you strive for. So,
yeah, I mean, because they were very different, weren't they? I would say Dire Straits were very different than some of the stuff. I mean, that sort of time, there's a lot of it was the punk era, wasn't it? I remember.
It was the punk era, and it's amazing that Dire Straits managed to emerge from the punk era.
Yeah, because they really did stand out. I mean, I was at college at the time, and. And I actually saw Dire Straits. This was before you were with them, and I think the two Knopfler brothers were with them. Well, I'm sure they were there with them. They'd just come back from America, and Sultans of Swing had just about was getting airplay in England. I remember it very, very well, and I was thinking, hang on, this is so different.
Yeah.
And it's funny. Some bands hit it big in America and then come back here. The Police did exactly the same thing around about the same sort of time.
Well, it wasn't really the States that broke Dire Straits in 1978. It was, I think it was Holland that was the first place that the record kind of broke away, and then it happened in Europe, and then it kind of drifted across to the States. But really, it was Brothers in Arms that really broke the Straits, the States for Dire Straits.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, I mean, yeah. But I remember. I say, Brothers in Arms is probably the biggest album you had. I don't know if it was the biggest album. I remember it was the one
the biggest album that anybody's ever had. Actually,
I think it was. Yeah, one of the best selling. Was it one of the best selling albums in the world at one time?
It's still up there, I think.
Is it? And that was the best selling album of '85, and it was also number one in America, which was unusual. Mm-hmm. I think it sold 9 million copies. I believe. Is that right?
I couldn't tell you how many, but it's a lot. A hell of a lot. Yeah.
It was. I mean, it was huge, and I mean, they were a real sort of force all of a sudden. Dire Straits. I mean, I saw them. I think it was about 400, 500 people when I saw them, and then I saw them again when you were with them at Woburn Abbey. I don't know if you remember doing that concert.
I do, yeah.
It was an amazing day. We had. I remember Lowell Lovett was on first. At the time, I think he was married or was having a bit of fun with Julia Roberts, and then we had the Was Not Was. I remember them being on and Walking the Dinosaur with them, and then. I think you came on and blew everybody away. So it's one of those great concert arenas that I think a lot of people remember.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
It was great time.
Yeah.
Anyway, are you with? I know we'll talk about the new band in a little while. Are you actually going to be recording any new stuff with the new band?
Yeah, I'm working on new material almost as we speak. Actually, I'm in my studio now, and we're planning on starting the recording in January, and sometime next year we'll be bringing a record out, yeah.
So while you're is that going to be a single or an album or both?
I think an EP, probably.
An EP? Okay.
That's the idea. We'll see how it goes. It depends on how many we
how many you managed to get.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you say the highlight so far of working with Dire Straits has been?
The highlight? Well, it's probably it's got to be the Brothers in Arms era, just because it was we were so phenomenally successful, and it was just amazing, really. And we sort of when we arrived in New Zealand, for instance, we got that sort of Maori welcome that the Queen gets, where they all kind of like dance, and the Maoris kind of do that that welcome thing,
I've seen it. Yeah, I wasn't the Queen. I've been out there, and it's a sort of a tame version of the Hacker, isn't it?
Yeah, well, where they're all dressed up, and I mean, it's a bit of a sort of. I mean, we played to like a serious percentage of the population of New Zealand.
Really?
It was I think something like 67% of the population of New Zealand came to see Dire Straits in the time we were there.
Really?
Unbelievable, yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lovely place, and it doesn't. Was it about 5 million people? Is it on the islands?
I don't know.
Something like that, I believe.
Might be now, yeah.
Yeah. So that was the highlight of your career. I mean, because I think you're sort of responsible, or Dire Straits are responsible for MTV really taking off, because the Money for Nothing track was really what I remember when I was a boy. Seeing on MTV, and it was the big thing. You and obviously Sting from the Police was involved with you in that track.
Yeah, that came about because it was my idea, actually. We obviously we had the track Money for Nothing, and when we were rehearsing it, I thought this would be good to have an intro, and the MTV used to use, but it had by then dropped the Sting, I Want My MTV. When MTV first started, they were using that kind of logo, I Want My MTV. But they'd stopped using it by then, in 1984. But I thought, well, it would be a good thing to sing, and Sting ended up singing it, and of course then MTV started using it again, and it all took off like that, really.
Yeah. Because I mean, I was told it was the biggest, the most played video on MTV at one time.
Yep, I think that's probably right. It was phenomenal. Yeah. It was phenomenally successful around the world, actually, everywhere.
Yeah. Okay, we'll take a break there, and we'll in a little while we'll talk about sort of what you've done since Dire Straits, and we'll talk a little bit about the rest of the career.
That's the way you do it. You play that guitar on MTV. That ain't working. That's the way you do it. Money for nothing and your chicks for free. That ain't working. That's the way you do it. Am I telling them guys they ain't dumb? Maybe get a blister on your little finger. Maybe get a blister on your thumb. Got to install a microwave oven, custom kitchen delivery. Got to move these refrigerators. Got to move these color TVs. The little faggot with a earring and a maker. I tell you about it, that's for his own hair. That little faggot got his own jet airplane. The little mother, he's a millionaire. You got to install a microwave oven, custom kitchen delivery. Got to move these refrigerators. Got to move these color TVs. I should've learned for to play the guitar. I should've learned for to bang on them drums. Look at that little mama, got her sticking in the camera, oh man. Wish I could get me some. Ah, who's up there? What's that? Hawaiian noises, banging on the bongos like it's in refrigerator. Got some movies, got a That ain't working. That's the way you do it. Just play the guitar on the MTV. That ain't working. That's the way you do it. Money for nothing and your chicks for free. Money for nothing. Chicks for free. Money for nothing. Chicks for free, man. Look at that, goes yours. And the chicks for free.
There we are, that's the Straits version of the classic Money for Nothing. Welcome back to Alan Clark, of ex of Dire Straits and now with the Straits. Let's talk about after you, I mean, Dire Straits were huge and then suddenly they sort of split up, as like most bands do. I think Mark went off to do some solo stuff and he went off with the Travelling Wilburys. What did you do then?
I was quite happy to do nothing for a while, but I did some stuff with Tina Turner and.
Really, what did you do with Tina?
Well, I was Tina's MD, musical director. I had been in before that, and I did a bit, and then I did some more with her then. And I was doing records with all sorts of people. I think Joan Armatrading.
Really.
Lots of.
So what was... I mean, I've seen Tina as well. I was at the last concert at Wembley when she was there, when she played her last... or was allegedly her last gig at Wembley.
Yes.
What was she like to work with? Because she looks... I mean, for a 70-year-old woman, she looks amazing.
Well, I was with her... I worked with her because she recorded Private Dancer, the track Private Dancer, which Mark Knopfler wrote, and which we actually, Dire Straits actually recorded when we were doing Love Over Gold.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, it was never going to be a Dire Straits track because it's supposed to be sung by a woman, of course. So Tina, I recorded that with Tina, which was the first time I met her in the studio, literally when we were recording that. And then she then asked me. She was about to undergo a tour with supporting Lionel Richie in the States to promote her record, her forthcoming Private Dancer album. And so she asked me if I would join her for that tour and and become her musical director, which I did, and which was amazing because during that tour, when we were supporting Lionel Richie, the album went to number 1 in the States. It was, I think it might have been up there for 6 weeks or it was quite a long time. So it was an amazing time to be with Tina.
Were you with her when she did the famous Rio concert? The was supposed to be one of the biggest concerts ever.
No, I've never been to South America.
Have you not? No, I'm hoping to go in a couple of years' time for the Olympics, but so I think everybody else in the world is as well.
Well, it's a place I must go.
No, I think so. I was going to ask you that later on. Is there anywhere you'd like to visit? But we'll ask that in a little while. We spoke about sort of the highlight of your career. Have you had any sort of low points when you thought, I've had enough of this? Let's get out of here.
Well, I mean, sometimes when you're getting dragged around the world and from one hotel to the other, you kind of get a little bit bored with it. But I can't really complain because it's not really work, I mean, in so much that both of my grandfathers were coal miners. That is work, So, but yeah, I mean, I think there are times when you kind of get a bit sick of it, and I'd rather be sitting in the studio being more creative, perhaps. But no, never really a particularly low.
No point in the career. Okay. What a question I have to ask people is there anybody you'd like to work with or would like to have worked with?
Quite a few, actually. I think Van Morrison. I have actually played a brief rehearsal with Van Morrison, very brief for about an hour. But I'd love to play. I'd love to join his band for a while.
Yeah, I bet that'd be fun.
Yeah.
But that would be that would be a great cracker, because I think the party afterward might be interesting as well.
One of the best gigs I've ever seen was a Van Morrison gig. It was actually in Newcastle, the arena at Newcastle, and I kind of went along, and I almost walked out actually because the first couple of tracks weren't that great, but then suddenly it started to come together, and I realised that the sound engineer was. Obviously hadn't done a sound check or something, and the sound engineer was struggling to get the sound together. But by about the 4th or 5th track, it turned into one of the best gigs I've ever seen.
Really?
And from that, and I was already a fan, which is why I was there. So I love his records. But I thought, I've got to play with this guy.
He does have one of those very. Well, when you hear a track, you recognise the voice straight away.
Oh yeah.
You couldn't disguise it. Another guy like that is Paul Carrick.
Paul Carrick.
Yeah.
There's another person that I'd love to work with.
Would you?
I've never met him.
Have you not?
I know quite a few people who play in his band.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, Paul lives very close to where we're broadcasting from.
Right.
Let's hope he's listening.
Cool.
Paul,
I'd like to work with you.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's a great offer. So, Paul, I'm hoping actually Paul will be on the show in a couple of weeks' time, actually. So I'll have a chat with him for you if you like.
Great.
Well, so there's my 10% management fee. No, I'm joking. I mean, you made some iconic music with Dire Straits. What would you like to be remembered for?
The reason why I do this, essentially, the essence of it, is to make people happy.
Okay.
And so I'd just like to be remembered for that, really.
And you enjoy playing the keyboard and you get paid for doing it. It can't be a bad job, is it?
I can't complain.
No. It was interesting. I had a guy on a little while ago who's a guitarist, and he says he never actually plays the guitar for fun. He does it on stage. And it was the guy from the Fortunes, the gentleman who was a guitarist of the Fortunes. And he says he doesn't ever practice and play at home. He ever plays it on stage. And I thought that was very unusual. I've never heard anybody say that before, and I was quite surprised,
Yeah. Well, everyone's different.
I know. He's the first musician or singer to actually ever say that to me, and I was quite shocked. It sort of threw me off a little bit.
Yeah.
Alan, what's your favourite song? Either one of Dire Straits or what you listen to yourself at the moment?
What's my favourite song?
Just to put you on the spot a little bit.
Yeah, tricky one, but I guess what I'm kind of listening to currently, if I went through my iPhone and with the tracks that I have on there, it's probably something by John Mayer, maybe Gravity by John Mayer.
Okay, yeah. And what about sort of one you've played on, or have you got a favourite sort of Dire Straits track?
Private Investigations, maybe.
Private Investigations, you like that one, do you? I'll play that in a few minutes, actually. We'll play that one in a few minutes for you. I know I've got that because I've got all of the Dire Straits stuff. We'll have a little break in a few minutes, but there's a couple of questions I'm going to ask you. Where's the best place you've ever visited and played? Would that have been New Zealand, did you?
Well, I think maybe Australia, because it was such good fun. We were so massive there. We played 21 nights in Sydney alone.
Wow.
In the entertainment centre in one go. I mean, literally in one go. We'd already been there for a couple of weeks, and then we did a run of 21 nights.
And now I guess they're all sold out.
Every single one of them was sold out. It was phenomenal. I used to go windsurfing in the afternoon and arrive at the entertainment centre in Sydney at about 6 o'clock in my wetsuit.
Really?
At the gig, yeah. And then eat at the gig, play the show, drive back to the hotel, and get up in the morning and go windsurfing again. It was rather nice.
And it's a bad life, you know. Actually, that must be great for when you said about touring and that. That must be great when you do like a residency for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Because it must be the finishing the concert, either going back to the hotel or travelling, and then finding a hotel.
Yeah.
That must be the hardest part. I can imagine. I know people go on these coach holidays where they move every day. I can't think of anything worse myself personally.
That becomes tedious. When
it would do for me.
Europe and getting up at 9:30 to travel on to the next venue, and then checking into a hotel, and then doing the whole thing every day.
Yeah, for a sort
of few... it gets hard. What I did when I joined Eric Clapton's band in 1987, I learned a better way of doing it. What he does is, if he's touring the States, he'll base himself in, say, in New York. So you check into a hotel in New York, you're going to be there for a week at least. Every day, about 5 o'clock, you assemble, you jump into the limos, you drive to an airport, you get onto a private G4 jet, which takes you to Boston, or it takes you to Atlanta, or wherever. You play the show, you walk off stage straight into the limos. The limos drive to the jet flies back to New York. Limo is waiting at the bottom of the steps. The limo takes you back to the hotel, and you're back in your hotel room by midnight.
That sounds a great job. That sounds a great gig.
To it.
Yeah, it's a shame I'm not a musician. We've spoken at the best place you visited. Where's the worst place you visited?
Oh, well, I don't know really.
Please don't mention Stevenage or St Albans because you're playing there this year.
No, I can't have the worst place. Well, I wouldn't like to.
Is there a place you wish you had never played?
I can't really
No.
say.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to say. I wouldn't want to embarrass anyone or any country by.
I don't mind. I don't
think of it anyway. So
well, the radio does go across. This program does go across to America as well, which is quite nice.
Well, it's not in America, that's for sure. Yeah.
No. Is there anywhere you've not played you'd love to go to?
Well, I've never been to South America.
I think we just touched on that one, didn't we?
Yeah. The Far East. Well, maybe China. I'd like to play in China and the Far East. I mean, obviously I've been to Japan quite a few times, but that's about it in that area.
Because the Chinese music market, seems to be opening up. They seem to be getting a little bit more liberal with their sort of censorship, as they used to call it, didn't they? They were very, very hot on sort of what they wouldn't show and what they would show and what they'd let people listen to.
Well, I think it's obviously going to turn into a huge market.
Oh, well, exactly. I mean, I've spoken to a couple of musicians, both Shack Attack and also Les McEwen. They go over to Japan and record, and they go over there and do these shows, and they're like demigods. They it's a bit like the Beatles are visiting Japan, and they can't believe. I remember Bill Sharp was telling me. Bill Sharp, the keyboard player of Shack Attack, he went out to Japan the first time. I think it was the middle '80s, and all these girls were screaming at them.
Yes.
And he says it's still manic when he goes over there now, and it's just they go over once a year and they record an album out there or record an album for that market, and it's still. I mean, you think about the sort of people in Japan, the amount of people, and compare that with England and sort of that. The market is, 10, 14, 20 times the English market would have been. So it would have been absolutely amazing, wouldn't it?
It's an amazing place, Japan. I like it very much.
I've never been. I've been to Hong Kong, and that's the furthest I've been. But anyway,
Now, there's another place I'd like to go, Hong Kong.
Very, very nice. I can recommend it. Great place. I stayed in a hotel. Don't ask me the name of it. Right opposite the Star Ferry Terminal, and it blew me away. It was exactly like I've seen it in the movies. Really nice place. We're actually sounding like a travel show today, aren't we? But never mind.
Yeah. Well.
One more question before we take a break and we talk about the new venture. Well, what do you like to do when you're relaxing? What do you like to do for hobbies apart from the windsurfing?
Well, I haven't windsurfed in about 8 years now because, mainly because I don't live near the sea now. I live in Cheshire, which is a bit of a trek to the sea. I used to live just pretty close to it at one time, on the northeast coast. What do I do? I'm into kickboxing, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I kind of do that every day, and I'm pretty much into keeping fit. I run 6 kilometres every day.
Really? And do you find that helps you with your when you go on stage?
Well, yeah, it helps me. It just, I think,
The stamina.
I can recommend to anyone. It just keeps your head together. I just feel absolutely great all the time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll take another break then, and then we'll talk about the new project, The Straits.
Join me, Tony Carty, on Wednesdays at 10 p.m. for Soundtracks, a programme of film music.
Are you crazy? The wall will probably kill you. I'll have what she's having.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Soundtracks is also repeated on Sundays at midnight and at 11 a.m. on Monday.
Rated by Top of the World!
It's a mystery to me. The game commences for the usual fee, plus expenses, confidential information. It's in a diary. This is my investigation. It's not a public inquiry. I go checking out the reports, digging up the dirt. You get to meet all sorts in this line of work. Treachery and treason, there's always an excuse for it. And when I find the reason, I still can't get used to it. And what have you got? At the end of the day, what do you got to take away? A bottle of whiskey with a new set of lies, blinds on the window and a pain behind the eyes.
Okay, let's welcome back Alan Clark. We're going to be talking about your new project now, the Straits.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, it only started a couple of years ago, didn't you? The band got back to not the band got back together. New band.
Yeah. It came together and it was fate really. And I'd discovered this guy called Terence Rage playing a couple of Dire Straits songs, and which is, I mean, I've heard quite a few people try to play Dire Straits songs. Actually, not many people do play Dire Straits songs because it's so difficult to put over that thing that Mark Knopfler does. He sings in a strange way. His guitar playing is almost unique. Then I discovered this guy called Terence Rage, who lived in South Africa, but I heard him on the internet, and he was like pretty phenomenal actually. So I got in touch with him, and then around about the same time I was invited to put a band together to play at a charity show at the Albert Hall. So I thought, well, I'll put a band together around Terence, and we'll play some Dire Straits material. He was into it. And then I thought, well, this is an opportunity to put together a band, hand-pick a band, which you don't really get the opportunity to do that, really, just the way the business is. So I called my mate Steve Ferroni, who is the drummer with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and then I called Mickey Fair, the great bass player, Chris White from Dire Straits on the saxophone, a young guy called Jamie Squire, who I'd watched develop into an amazingly talented young man with a voice like a world-class singing voice, and then Adam Phillips on guitar, and we played the Albert Hall, and it was a phenomenal success. So we didn't really intend to stay together. We got together to play the Albert Hall, and after that we thought, well, we can't stop here really. Let's do some more. So we played a few more shows, and that was a phenomenal success. And we thought, well, there's a load of people out there who are really want to hear Dire Straits material, and thought they would never hear it again, and they kept coming up to us saying exactly that. We thought we'd never hear this ever again like this, and they can't believe how good it is, what we're doing. They liken us to Dire Straits when the band was at its best in the Brothers in Arms era, probably. So we just kept going, and here we are, still doing it and having so much fun doing it.
Well, that's not quite the story I heard. I heard you were sitting around in a swimming pool in Rome.
Well,
with Chris
White when the idea to form the band. Yeah, Chris White and I were out there doing another project, and the idea just sort of came together during the night. So when I saw Chris at breakfast, I said, "Hey, we're going to put a band together. Maybe we could call ourselves the Straits." And he sort of like gulped on his coffee, and here we are.
So I mean, have you actually played apart from this concert at the Royal Albert Hall? Have you sort of toured before together?
No, that was the first gig we did.
That was the first gig, and have you done any since?
We've done a lot since, yeah.
We've
been around Europe. We've played some gigs in England, in the UK. We've played. Where have we played? We've played in Russia. We've played in all over the place. Lots of. We don't work hard, but we kind of, we're fairly consistent.
Yeah, that's good. I looked at the lineup. I was sent some details of the lineup of the guys you got playing with you. I mean, you've just mentioned most of them. I mean, Chris he was originally with Dire Straits. He must have joined about the same time as you, did he?
He joined for the Brothers in Arms tour.
So it's about 83. That would have been, wouldn't it? 82.
85.
Yep. Oh, my maths is getting worse. And then obviously, I mean, you mentioned Steve Ferroni, who's one of the world's greatest drummers.
Yes.
Played with Tom Petty. I'll get my teeth organised.
Yeah, with Tom Petty for 21 21
21.
years.
Okay. I was sentenced at 18, but we're not going to argue over 3 years. And I mean, he's played with people like the Average White Band and Eric Clapton and Quincy Jones. I mean, they're no sort of Mickey Mouse musicians, are they at all?
Oh no, I mean Steve is up there with he's one of the elite tennis drummers in the world.
Yeah, and then you mentioned Michael Fiat, who's the bassist with the band now.
Yes.
I mean, he's played with Mark and Art Garfunkel, and he's played with Van and David Gilmour of Pink Floyd.
Yep,
absolutely.
And he was the session bass player at Ice Island Records for
really
a few years.
So over in would that have been over in Barbados?
No, that was in London.
In London, okay. Yeah. And then, of course, you mentioned Adam. I mean, he's played with amazing array of artists.
Adam still regularly plays on. He's a session guitar player, so he's
he's played
on hit singles all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, he's played with Rod Stewart, David Bowie, and the great Tina Turner, Sheryl Crow, Cher, Lionel Richie, James Morrison, Andrea Bocelli, Heather Small, and Tom Robinson. Blimey, there's a name from the past.
Yeah.
This is going to be a great show. What we need to do is actually tell people where they can see you. The two shows in the area, we've got 14th of February, Valentine's night. I'll have to see if I can persuade the wife to let me out. You're at the Stevenage Leisure Centre.
Yep.
And then 2 nights later, you're at the Auburn Arena in St Albans. Both absolutely fabulous venues.
That's right.
You have a great time. Have you been to either of those places before?
I think we have, yeah. You've caught me on the hop there.
Oh, okay.
I think we have.
You have. And just sort of give us a rundown of what people can expect to see when they come and see you.
They can expect to hear Dire Straits material played the way it should be played, with all of the passion, energy, and expertise that they would have heard it and possibly even more expertise than they would have heard it in 1985, 86 during the Brothers in Arms era, and when Dire Straits were at their best.
Okay, that's great. And will you be playing any of your new stuff? Will you be, by February, will you be...
I think it might be a bit early, but
bit early.
You never know. We might have decided to throw some.
It would be lovely. I'm hoping to get along certainly to Stevenage to come and see you. I would say I'm a big fan. Really loved the sound of Dire Straits, and when I was offered the chance to interview, it was an absolute pleasure.
Well, be sure to come and introduce you.
I will try to do that. I mean, we, both my wife and myself are at the age where we remember you the first time round, which is a little bit of a worry sometimes. What's been the audience? The audience you've been getting when you've been touring. Has it been sort of people of my age? We say I'll give you a clue. I'm early 50s. Yeah. Has it been? Have they been bringing? Mum and Dad been bringing daughter and son as well, or?
Well, that's one of the fascinating things. We obviously have people who are your age, my age, coming along, but there's a whole mishmash of other age groups, including some young people who lots of the people grow up listening to their parents' records, and then they do a sort of a revival thing, and so there's the audience. So there's a whole cross section of age groups, which is pretty amazing.
Which is great. So you've got the next generation of Dire or Straits fans, as we can call it.
Yeah, and their kids as well.
Yeah, I mean it's just
we've been around.
Yeah, it's amazing. I go to a lot of sort of like shows that I people I know from the eras. I recently had Marty Wilde on the show, and I remember
Marty's
listening to Marty's songs at home when my dad was playing them. My dad's in his mid-70s.
There you go, yeah.
And it's just absolutely amazing. The music, good music, will always survive.
Yes.
Now we're almost out of time, so I'm just going to run through the dates again with you.
Sure.
Have you got a website? Have the Straits got a website?
Yeah, thestraits.com.
Nice and easy. Are you on Twitter as well?
We're on Twitter, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm sure people, if they go onto the website, they'll be able to find you. That's nice and easy. You are playing...
We're on Facebook too.
Are you on Facebook as well?
Yep.
Jolly good. Well, people can link, I think, from the websites normally link through to the...
to both of those, yeah.
So it's thestraits.com, and you in the area, in the Sticks area, you're... On the 14th of February, you're at the Stevenage Leisure Centre, and that's a big arena. It's going to hold about 1,500 people in there.
Yeah.
And then down at a couple of nights later, on the 16th, you're at the Auburn Arena in St Albans, which is again a lovely place.
Yeah.
No, I'm both very well. Anyhow, we're almost out of time. Great pleasure to have you on the show today.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time.
It's been my pleasure.
No problem.
MK Flyers Online, the fast and simple way to find any kind of business or service locally. Find us at mkflyersonline.co.uk or download the MK Flyers mobile app from your app store. MK Flyers Online proudly supports Seclo Sounds, community radio for Milton Keynes.
Calling Elvis, is anybody home? Calling Elvis, I'm here all alone. I didn't leave the building, I can't get to the phone. Calling Elvis, I'm here all alone. Well, tell him I was calling, just to wish him well. Let me leave my number, Heartbreak Hotel. Oh, lovely tender, baby don't be cruel. Return to sender, treat me like a fool. Calling Elvis, is anybody home? Calling Elvis, I'm here all alone. Did you leave the building? Can you come to the phone? Calling Elvis, I'm here all alone. All right. Why don't you go get him? I'm his biggest fan. You gotta tell him he's still a man. A long distance baby, so far from home. Don't you think maybe you could put him on? Tell him I was calling just to wish him well. Let me leave my number, Heartbreak Hotel. Oh, love me tender, baby don't be cruel. Return to sender, treat me like a fool. Calling Elvis, is anybody home? Calling Elvis, here all alone. Leave the building, come to the phone. Calling Elvis, I'm here all alone.
That was Calling Elvis from Dire Straits from their 1991 album On Every Street. It's been great to have today Alan Clark, the keyboard player with Dire Straits, on the programme. Big thank you for his time today. In future editions of the show, I've got the Fabulous Drifters joining me. I've also got Mike Hall of After Midnight, who plays in Classic Clapton. Also, very, very soon, I've got the original lead singer of Uriah Heep joining me on the programme. Anyhow, I've been Terry Sullivan. This has been the Sticks Radio Show. Until next week, it's bye for now.
MK Pulse proudly sponsors Seclo Sounds. MK Pulse is Milton Keynes' local magazine, bringing helpful information on food, health, fashion, money, travel, culture, and much more to 66,000 readers every month. Plus news, views, and what's on from around the city. If it's happening in Milton Keynes, it's in MK Pulse, and it's available online at www.mkpulse.co.uk. MK Pulse and Seclo Sounds, the heart and soul of the city.